State trooper made routine stop, but things changed when he learned more about the driver. When New Jersey State Trooper Michael Patterson started his workday on June 1st, he had no idea that it wasn't just a regular day. He pulled a driver over, and after a short interaction with the man, he would soon be left speechless when he realizes who that man really was. Michael Patterson was supposed to patrol the highway and stop the reckless drivers from speeding. It was supposed to be a regular workday, but he had no idea that the man he'd stop was connected to his own past. Trooper Patterson was getting ready to start his hot summer day, handing out drivers traffic violations. But that day had been without much incident, and when he was about to find the last driver before calling it a day, things changed. Michael saw a white BMW passing him on the Kingswood Township Highway. He saw the car had a problem, so he decided to stop the driver. The suspicious driver hadn't been speeding or didn't drive recklessly, but the car had an issue. You see, that car had very dark tinted windows. New Jersey and many other states have certain rules for drivers when it comes to tinting the windows. This car had all of its windows tinted, so Patterson decided to turn the lights on and went after the car to pull it over. The 26-year-old cop pulled over the car and approached the driver's window as the lights kept flashing behind him. Equipped with a body cam, he made sure that it was working in case things went sideways. What he didn't know was that the footage would go viral on the internet for a totally different reason. The young cop had quite the experience on the highway. This was just a normal day at work, he thought as he carefully approached the white BMW. Nonetheless, cops can never predict what happens after they pull a car. So Michael had to always be prepared. As he approached the car, he noticed a middle-aged man in the driver's seat. After the driver lowered the window, the officer asked him the usual question, "Sir, do you know why I have pulled you over today?" The driver told the officer that he didn't exactly know what he did wrong. Then, Patterson starts explaining that the driver's window tints were not following the New Jersey law. The driver's answer surprised him. The driver then admitted that the windows were indeed a bit too tinted and he was actually embarrassed about this issue. He added that he had also been a New Jersey police officer for 3 decades and had always followed the law. This was a problem that he'd been wanting to fix. Then, when he introduced himself to Michael, things get a bit confusing for the young cop. The driver introduced himself, telling Michael his name was Matthew. He then admitted he had loved being an officer, but he was eager to retire and enjoy a life outside the police force. What neither Matthew nor Michael knew was that their conversation would lead them to a decades-old story. Now that Matthew was having a talk with the officer and sharing their experience in law enforcement, he hoped this conversation would make Michael forget about the ticket. The retired cop told him that he had sent the car at a local auto shop. He thought that the tints were up to legal standards, but it seems that he was wrong. However, he promised to fix them. Then, their discussion led them to an incredible realization. The young officer agreed that it was great to meet a retired cop. Talking with Matthew was like a breath of fresh air. Then, the driver told Michael that he actually lives right around the corner. He also said that he patrolled an area that was more than 40 miles away from his house. As the two kept talking, Michael realized that this was not a regular meeting. Here's what he learned from Matthew. After the two spoke about education, the units, and their career, the two reached a few personal questions. Matthew began telling him a rather interesting mission he had when he was young. A police officer's career can get quite exciting considering they're prone to face a lot of strange events. That's when Matthew thought of a crazy day at work and decided to share it with the young cop. Matthew began telling Michael the story about an incident he had been when he was younger. It happened in a New Jersey town called Piscataway. Officer Patterson said he knew the town, since it was where he was actually born and raised. But after Michael said that he usually visits his town to see his parents, Matthew continued with his story. That's when things become clear and both men end up staring at each other, scrambling for words. Decades ago, Matthew got a call that sent him to Piscataway. He had only been a cop for 4 years, and while this may seem like he's had some experience, he was still a rookie. On that night, as Matthew alone and was patrolling the town, he got a call about an emergency. Little did he know that his night would be anything but normal. On the other side of the town, a pregnant woman that was shopping with her young son noticed that something was not right and hurried back home. She called her husband too, but it was too late. The woman realized she was going to give birth that night, so her husband called for help since it was a bit too late to go to the hospital on their own. Most women go through hours of labor, but this woman was in huge pain and was worried she wouldn't make it to the hospital. She laid on her bed, hoping for someone to come help her. Michael was listening to his story. The police was on its way, and it was Matthew approaching, with the siren blaring and lights alerting the whole neighborhood. He had some training for these situations, but you're never prepared for this situation. Matthew's story went viral after Michael learned about it, and you'll soon learn why. In a later interview with CBS This Morning, Matthew said that, at that point, I did not have any children of my own. I had never seen it, experienced it, I was just trying to recall my academy days of my training, he added. When he entered the woman's bedroom, he was told she was having contractions. Matthew was sure the woman would give birth to her baby in the bedroom. He wasn't an expert, but he called the woman's doctor. She instructed him on the phone, and Matthew, alongside the woman's husband, was able to help her deliver a healthy baby. It was the first time Matthew experienced such an event, and he was overwhelmed with happiness. He would never forget that moment. Matthew had told that story to a lot of friends. But this was only half of his story. What really confused him was Officer Michael Patterson's reaction. The officer was looking at Matthew with a lot more than amazement. You see, while most people would ask a few more details or comment on the story, Michael was baffled. But Michael began asking some strange questions, such as the date of that event and the address of that family. Matthew believed that the young officer was just curious and maybe knew that family since he had lived there his entire childhood. Not thinking too much about it, he told Michael that it happened in 1991 on October 5th and that the street name was Poe Place. Patterson's mouth was open as he took in all the details. He couldn't believe what he was hearing from this stranger he had just met. His mind was racing, and before he would blurt out the truth, he had one more question. Did he remember the name of the pregnant woman? Matthew was so impressed by that experience that he had clear memories from that night. The woman's name was Karen. As far as he remembered, the mother named her baby Michael. The young officer couldn't believe what he was hearing, so he finally blurted it out. That was me. That was me. Michael told Matthew, who replied, "Get the hell out of here." Neither of them could believe that fate brought them back together. Michael then told the retired cop, "My name is Michael Patterson, sir. Thank you for delivering me." But this is not how their story ends. Of course, both men were left speechless when they realized they both were part of the same crazy story. What were the odds the young cop would pull over the same cop that helped his mom deliver him? All that conversation was caught on camera since the body camera was still on, so he had proof of everything. Nobody would have believed Michael if he told this story, but he had the footage. Of course, Matthew was no longer getting a ticket. After all, it was him that helped Michael come into this world. But when they said their goodbyes and the young officer pulled away and then decided to do one more thing. After meeting Matthew, Michael told his family about the strange meeting he had, and everyone was shocked. They asked him if they at least exchanged information or took a photo together. Michael said that he hadn't, and was sad that he missed that opportunity. But he did have a way to contact him. The young officer recalled that he took down Matthew's driver's license information and he could find out the man's address, which was close to where he had been patrolling. The young officer wrote a note to the retired cop, asking him if they would meet again. He had no idea what would happen next. Of course, Matthew was happy to meet again the man that he had helped deliver decades ago. Michael even took his mom to Matthew's house, where they met his wife. Their tearful reunion then went viral. The New Jersey State Police made this reunion public, and the video of the strange meeting between the two cops went viral. People couldn't believe it when they hear the story. Michael's mother was in tears as she thought of the police officer that had saved her child. Michael's mother said that they will definitely going to stay in touch, because this is a special relationship and it was meant to happen. Things don't just happen like that, she added, and both Matthew and Michael agreed. I think a greater power somehow made that meeting happen, and I'm not sure where it's going to take us, and I'm willing to go on the journey, Matthew concluded. That intimate moment they had decades ago is surely a bond that cannot be broken. Who would have thought that these two cops had more in common than their career?